want to bring in former CIA Director James Woolsey right now. Director Woolsey, good to see you. Thanks so much for weighing in this morning.
Good to see you, Maria.
What can you add to this conversation right now in terms of where you see this investigation going now, James? Because we know that 2 additional suspects this morning have been arrested. What are investigators doing now?
I think the British investigators are among the world's best, and they're doing it looks to me, a very good job. But we're going to lose on all of this if we just focus on terrorist acts. The dictum is, if you see something, say something. Yeah, that goes without saying. But even if you don't see something, you ought to do something. We are being out-taught. We are not teaching our Constitution in our schools. There are lots of instruction going on in all of our prisons for radical Islam. Whether it's whatever kind of institution it is, we have a very a serious problem in if we just try to deal with the individual acts of terror. That's much too late. The horse is already out the door of the barn. We're locking it after he's been out for a long time. No,
well, part of it is because we were trying to be politically correct. Isn't that right? Over the last 10 years, we weren't allowed to look at people's social media pages.
Right. Well, political correctness can really help us understand, because what we should always do is analyze something to find out what is politically correct and then do the exact opposite.
Yeah. Thank you.
But Ambassador, you hit the nail on the head, and it's so refreshing to hear that. When individuals come to this country, you're right, they should learn about our heritage, our culture, our history, learn to respect our way of life. That's not going on now. So I just want to thank you for saying that, because that's probably the first time I've heard that in a long time.
It seems like where we are right now, we went through 8 years of not even being, no one hearing the term Islamic terrorists or radical Islamic terrorists. It feels like the sea is shifting a little bit, though, where people are fed up with the political correctness and people dying, people getting killed by radical Islamic terrorists. So now, hopefully, we do something to stop it in its breeding ground, that we have a president now that wants to go after where it's coming from, where they're being bred, and hopefully this changes it, like James is saying, before there's a terrorist attack.
Ambassador, I have a quick question, though, in terms of, if you look at Britain and the kind of government-sanctioned multiculturalism, these self-isolating, self-segregating communities that have bred radical Islamic terrorism, and they're giving rise to these terrorists. How is that different than what you see here in the United States?
We are better here in the United States at assimilating people from all sorts of different cultural and religious backgrounds than practically any place else in the world. But we are the subject now of a flood of people coming in and educating themselves or having their children educated here in the United States using various types of media and so on in support of radicalism. And we simply have to get that issue joined. Our best friends in this are real moderate Muslims. I don't mean the Muslim Brotherhood. I mean real moderate Muslims.
Right.
People of the attitudes of Abdul Rahman Wahid, the late president of Indonesia, who used to rent soccer stadiums all over Indonesia and take Indonesia's leading rock star with him to teach kids songs about religious freedom. He was amazing. That tradition exists within Islam, but it's not mainly what comes out of the Arabian desert. But it's very interesting to see these 5 countries now have turned against Qatar for its financing of radical Islam.
That's what I was just going to ask you about, James. This is a big story, and you've got all of these countries now cutting ties to the Qataris. What's your sense of Qatar? And let's not forget that we have our main military operation in Qatar. Our military operation in the Middle East is housed in Qatar.
Yes, and that may, in retrospect, have turned out not to be the very best choice to make, because Qatar is, I'm afraid, rather locked into its radical Islam funding, and they will look you straight in the eye and say they're not doing a thing like that, and then shovel under the table, shovel the money out to Hamas and to the violent side of the Muslim Brotherhood and so on.
Yeah. Do you think the president should deem the Muslim Brotherhood a terrorist organization?
I used to think that there might be some chance to have factions within it and work with some and not others. As time goes on, I see very little opportunity for the Muslim Brotherhood to be dealt with other than the way essentially we dealt with a Communist Party during the Cold War. Congress tried to make it illegal to be a communist with the Smith Act, but Supreme Court knocked that down. So basically we made their lives very difficult by having to fill out forms all the time. But they still had a presidential candidate, the communists did, and so forth. We are a First Amendment country, freedom of speech, freedom of religion, that's bedrock. We've got to do that. But there are ways, such as the way we took on the communists during the Cold War, that we could make some progress, I think.
Director Woolsey, good to see you. Thanks so much.
Good to see you.
We appreciate it. James Woolsey there.